go. All right, morning class, or afternoon, or evening, or night, whenever you're looking at this. Hopefully not the last day before it's due. Anyway, on the AP exam, you're going to get a DBQ question. DBQ, document-based question, meaning there's going to be documents. Okay, you're going to get a prompt. In this case, it's evaluate the extent to which reform movements changed United States society in the period from 1877 to 1914. That might sound foreign to some of you already, but as we get through the school year, you'll eventually come to find out that prompt is not as scary as it looks. Okay, so they're going to give you instructions on what you're looking for, what you're supposed to do. All right, and it's going to have 5 documents. Document 1. Okay, then it's going to have a picture like this. That's document 2. You look around here, find different things in the background to pick up on. Then you got document 3, document 4, document 5. Okay, so it's 5 documents that you're going to use to help write this essay. Okay, and then you're going to be graded on how many of these documents you use and how well you use them. Here you see it says, explain how or why the document's point of view, purpose, historical situation, and or audience is relevant to the argument. Okay, so it's giving you exactly things that you're supposed to be looking for. Specifically, okay, you might know a lot about history, but they don't really care how much you know about history if it doesn't pertain to this prompt or the prompt you'll get on the actual AP exam. So if it doesn't pertain to the prompt and it isn't covered in one of these, they don't really care how much history you know or how well you can write. So you have to score points based off of what they're asking you to do. All right, so you're going to see documents like that. So those are the documents. What was point of view, purpose, historical situation? Okay, so let's see what that is. Don't worry, here we go. All right, so like in the first document, it'll talk about the relevance, the point of view, or the situation. So the situation is when this was happening, what period of time in history was happening, and the purpose. Why would somebody write about it? Why did somebody make a document that now you have to go through and try to figure out in order to get some points on your exam? Okay, same thing. This is that poster you saw. It says what was in the poster. It says what it said. It's who it was. But what was the purpose? Okay, so this would be the purpose of that poster. Okay, and this would be the situation that the country was in at the time. All right. Okay, so that pretty much goes for all of them. Okay, it'll give you point of view, purpose, situation. Okay, situation, purpose. This document right here, point of view, okay, situation. So they don't give you this on the exam. This is what you're supposed to figure out when you look at the document. You're supposed to say, okay, what's the document about? What's it really saying in the document? Do they bring up any good points in the document? And kind of why did they even bother with this in that time period? Like why are you showing me this? Okay, type thing. And then you kind of write when it happened in history. So you have to think this up yourself when you see the document. They're not going to give you this. This is for you to try to figure out when you see the document. Like, why did some person write this? What was the point of writing this? What was going on in the country at the time to make somebody write this? And what point of view were they trying to get across? What message are they trying to send? You're going to have to figure that out when you're actually taking the AP exam. Okay? So you're going to get a prompt with documents, and then you have to break down each document of its purpose, basically, and then you have to start writing your essay. Okay? So you wrote your essay. Now they're going to score your essay. A guy like me is going to score the essay. I scored them last year, and I will be scoring them again this year. So how do I score it? Well, this is how I score it. You're going to get 1 point for a good thesis. This breaks down what a good thesis is. It'll tell you what it is. You're basically making a claim. You're taking a stand. You're making an historical claim. You make a historical claim, it really doesn't matter how well you write it. You don't have to have, college level vocabulary. You can write it in just basic 6th grade vocabulary if you wanted, as long as you make a claim. Okay? You take a stand and you go on, and then you're going to go on to explain, and you're going to support the stand you took. Okay? In this case, what's this look like? The idealism of Manifest Destiny motivated the U.S. expansion west. However, the goal of expanding trade and business pursuits were also important motivators. So they're saying the idea of Manifest Destiny motivated the U.S. expansion of the West. So in your essay, you're going to have to prove that. How did it motivate it? To what degree did it motivate it? Was there anything else that motivated it? Yeah, obviously you wrote down there was expanding trade and business pursuits. So basically the motivation to go make money also were important motivators to move west. In your essay, you're going to prove this. You took a stand saying these things motivated people to move west. Now you're going to have to go on to explain how that happened. Okay? But what happened before? Why did they want to move west? What occurred to where they could move west? Okay? That's the contextualization. And it'll go on to explain it. You're going to talk about events before, during, or throughout, okay, that have nothing to do with the documents, okay? I mean, they don't, in the documents, it doesn't talk about it, all right? So in this case, they talked about the Louisiana Purchase. So obviously, when this person did this DBQ, they didn't have a document that talked about the Louisiana Purchase and the Lewis Clark Expedition. They threw that in there. That was extra. That was happening also. So to get contextualization point, you have to talk about something a little bigger, a little outside the documents. Easy to get that point if you did your reading. Okay? Then you're going to use a document. If you use a document and you explain how it shows why people were motivated, you're going to get a point. Okay? You're going to get points, like I said, to support your argument. Okay? So you put in there a document. You said on doc 1, blah, 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 or doc 5. Okay? You kind of quoted it saying, how it pertains to your argument. And then you go on to put down how it supports your argument. You get more points. Okay? You'll be able to read this when you see it. It'll be more explicit. Now stuff beyond the documents. Okay, so you're saying, well, what's the difference between this, okay, and contextualization? You just told me I got to add stuff beyond the documents for contextualization. You do, but it doesn't really have to pertain to your prompt, your historical claim. You're just going to say what was going on in history at the time. Okay, it's your time to put in a small paragraph about what was taking place in the country at the time. This evidence beyond the documents is things you remember reading about that's going to talk specifically about your historical claim. Okay, so securing California as part of America's expansion, blah, 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 attempt to acquire California for a purchase of $20 million. Okay, this created a war. All right, so somehow they think this is stuff that was outside the documents that were motivation to move west. Okay? Then you got to write that point of view. Remember when we talked about the document? What was the point of the document? Okay, so you would write that in there too. James Gorman wrote an essay in 1788 opposing the ratification of the U.S. Constitution because of the 3/5 clause. Document 3, okay, and it goes on to explain why somebody would want to move, possibly based off of some political stuff that went on. All right, this is not really, we don't have to be real specific, just know that you have to source a couple documents and you'll get points. All you have to do is explain the purpose of them. Like I said, the point of view, the period of time in history, what was going on, things like that. All right, once again, I'm saying it very briefly, and you're going to be able to go through this on your own and kind of get a better idea of what you're going to be expected to do and how you earn points. Okay, complexity, I'm going to let you read this. Complexity is really tough to get a point on because you really got to know your history really well, like you were going to teach the class type of knowing your history. Okay, it's not impossible to get the complexity point, but it's pretty tough. But if you get 9 out of 10 points, that's still a 4.5 out of 5 on an AP exam. So you don't stress over this too much. If you know it, you know it. If you don't, you don't. Okay? And then another little tip on how to apply the rubric. Okay? So I'm going to let you go through all this when it comes time for you to get started. I just went through it real briefly. But this is basically telling you how to get points. Okay? So it's how you get points. It's what I looked at when I was giving points last year when I graded these DBQ essays. Okay? It's like a rubric for me. All right, so that's kind of the first part where you're going to do the reading. You're going to go through the documents. You're going to go through this where it explains how you earn points. Okay, and you're going to see the tally sheet. So let's go ahead and look at that tally sheet right now. We're going to find it. Where's my tally sheet? This looks like the tally sheet. Okay, so when I was grading the essays, okay, I'm looking, do they have a thesis? Okay, I put an X here. They had a thesis. Didn't matter if it was a good thesis or a bad thesis or a historical claim. Didn't matter how it was written. If it was a thesis, it was a thesis. They got a point. It's the easiest point to get. Pretty much everyone that wrote an essay at least wrote a thesis, so they got at least 1 point. Okay? Did they use a couple documents? Did they mention a couple documents? Yeah, they mentioned, like this one mention of change in Doc 3. I write little notes, so I get to check mark Doc 3. Okay? Doc 1 and Doc 5, they describe the document, but they don't say how it pertains. They don't associate it with their thesis. Okay? So because they mentioned it, they get X's, okay? But they don't get any extra points other than they used at least 2 documents. Okay, so they used at least 2 documents. But did they support their argument in at least 2 of the documents? No. In Doc 3, they mentioned change. In Doc 1 and 5, they just mentioned the documents. They didn't mention how it pertained to their thesis. They did not relate it to their thesis. So they didn't get any points there. Okay? So obviously, if they didn't support their argument for 2 docs, they didn't support it for 4 docs, so no points. Okay? Outside of the document, nowhere in the documents did they mention the NAACP mentioned, but it pertained to that period of time in history. It has something to do with that period of time in history, and they mentioned it. NAACP, they mentioned it in their essay, so evidence beyond the document, they got a point. Okay, so they got 3. All they had to do was mention something else of how Doc 1 or Doc 5 pertained to their thesis, how it related to their thesis, how it supported their thesis, and they would have gotten another point. And they would have at least gotten 4 points. Okay, so at least it would have been a 2 on their 2 out of 10. 4 out of 10 on their rubric, so that would equal to a 2 out of 5 on their exam. Okay? If we go up to here, this one, look, they got 7 on this one. Okay? They got 7. So they had a thesis, contextualization, they talked about the growth of cities, okay, in this particular essay that they had to write on. You don't know what the essay was, just know that they talked about something outside of the documents that was taking place in history at the time, okay, that kind of related to what was going on, okay. They mentioned all 5 docs. In their essay, they wrote down all 5 documents, okay, but out of the 5 documents they mentioned, only 2 of them they used to support their claim. Only 2 of the documents they used to support their claim. But it was still good enough for another point. Okay? And then in 2 situations, they gave evidence beyond the documents. Okay? So, They talked about the ideal American mold. They brought up a person in history, Jacob Riis. Okay, so they mentioned a couple things that were outside of the documents, but pertained to the prompt. Okay, they mentioned Jim Crow down here at the time that pertained to the specific prompt they were writing on. So they got, a lot of points. Now, the essay wasn't that great or anything like that. I remember this essay, but they mentioned the key things. Jim Crow, okay, NACW, Jacob Riis. So they named certain people or organizations that pertain to this period in history that they were writing the prompt about. Okay? So that's how your essays are graded. We're looking for reasons to give you points. Okay? So we're looking for reasons to give you points. They talked about here, they just talked about kindergartens, how kindergartens changed things. Okay? So they got a point for it. They mentioned this guy again. They got a point. They mentioned industrial expansion, which wasn't in the documents, but it pertained to the prompt. They got a point. You're just trying to get points. If you mention all 5 documents, you get a point. Even if you don't even support, your thesis. Like I said, up here, this person named 5 of their documents. They put 5 of their documents in the essay. They didn't use them to support anything. But because they mentioned them, they referenced them in their essay, they got a point. Okay? So some of these points they're going to give them to you for just copying stuff off your document, just copying what it is. Doc 1, this was what it was. Doc 2, this is what it was. Doc 3, this is what it was. Even if you don't use it to support, you're still going to get a point for mentioning it. Okay, so that's not too hard. It's easy to get 2 points. Make a claim and mention the documents. That's 2 points right there. Okay, so that's not that hard to do. Okay, so that's all the reading and setting up. Because you're going to actually grade some essays. That's why I'm telling you all this. You're going to do what I did. Okay, that's the best way to learn how a DBQ works and how to get points. You actually grade some of them. Okay, so all the documents I showed you up to this point is to get you ready and prepared to grade a couple essays. So let's see one of those essays. Let's grab this essay. Okay, I'm going to grab this essay. Nope, that's a rubric. Never mind. You're going to get to see those after you grade. Ignore those. Okay, let's find a essay. Here's an essay. Okay, so this person wrote an essay. Okay, this is essay number 6. Okay, so you're going to go through this essay and you're going to kind of do what I did. I'm kind of helping you along here. Okay, and you don't know exactly what I did here, but I'm kind of giving you a hint. So look, first of all, I'm going to go through and I'm going to look for a thesis. Did I find a thesis? Okay, so I'm looking for a thesis. Did they make a point? Okay, based off the prompt. Remember the first thing I showed you? They had the prompt on it. Okay, you'll be able to go back to it. So did they make a claim about a prompt? All right, so you got to remember what the prompt was. Okay, then did they use documents? It says document 4 they used, document 1, document 3, document 2. Okay, so they mentioned at least 4 documents, right? There's another point. Okay, even if I don't even know how they mentioned them yet. Oh, they mentioned doc 5. So I can go down back and I can check 5. I can check those boxes and see that they mentioned them in the essay. Okay, so I see they got that contextualization. Did they talk about anything prior to that period in history? Did they talk about anything else? What do we got? Drastically changed. We got Industrial Revolution. We got there was a great migration of African Americans, Jim Crow, blah, blah, blah. Sadly, the conditions were not good. People were pushing. So they possibly mentioned some stuff before the specific area of history we're going to get into. So did they kind of talk about stuff outside? Sure they did. Contextualization. So they probably got a point. I'm not sure. That's going to be up to you. Okay? We're going to see how you do on grading this essay, essay number 6. Okay? And there's going to be 2 other essays that you're going to grade. Okay? And you're going to use a blank tally sheet. Okay? Let's show you that. Okay, so I'm going to give you these blank tally sheets. You're going to grade one essay. And then you're going to grade your next essay, and you're going to grade your next essay. And this is what you're going to submit. Okay, you're going to submit this document, this tally sheet. There's like 4 spaces to cross that one out. You're not going to do 4 essays. You're just going to do 3 essays. 1 essay, 2 essay, 3 essay. And you're going to give them a total score down at the bottom. Okay? And that's what you're going to turn in, okay, for your grade for that week. And then we will go over them with the rubrics that I already have written up, and we can easily see where they got points, and we'll see how close you came to what they actually scored on the AP exam. Okie doke. All right, this was a little lengthy, but this is going to be a little challenging, so I thought you might need a video to help kind of explain it, to get you jump started. Okay. There's a discussion board that I want you to use. Students, like if you're in a classroom working together, collaborating together, I'll be checking it myself and adding input where I think I need to. But I kind of like to see you as a class kind of work through it, because that's kind of how you learn. If I explain everything to you, you kind of sit there and nod your head like, but you're not really interacting. You're not actively participating. You're actively listening, but you're not actively participating. This particular assignment, you're going to be actively participating and trying to figure it out, how essays are graded, so that helps you understand how you have to write your essay. Okay? So hopefully this will help, and we'll see. But for now, I'm out of here, and I went really fast, and it could be really confusing, but I think you can still do it. See ya.